one name or another has been the home for the last few years as the Yankees bench coach, and now getting his first chance to manage from the west coast of Florida, where they used to be in St. Petersburg. See the berm filling up out in right field. A little bit of breeze blowing out of the northwest today from left toward right. There's the Cardinals starting lineup presented by Catholic Spring Training caps. A few regulars in there. There's Donovan Mendoza, the 44-year-old Jordan Walker. Von Herrera should be the backup. The last few years as the Yankees bench coach, and now getting his first chance to manage guys at the big league level. Scott stole 94 bases in the minors last year. And Alfonso Rivas, who was Tyler McGill's college teammate at Arizona.
That's right. Well, it's going to be a great battle.
There's the Cardinals starting lineup presented by Catholic Health
for one of the spots in the
regulars in there. Brendan Donovan, Lars
going down. Last year,
Walker,
second half his ERA was a run less than it was in the first half, and in September, October,
a lot of other guys.
With an ERA
Victor Scott stole 94 bases in the minors last year. And Alfonso Rivas, who was McGill's college teammate at Arizona.
Right. Well, it's going to be a great battle for Tyler McGill here in spring training as he battles for one of the spots in the rotation, especially with Senga playing second base down. Last year, second half his ERA was a run less than it was in the first half, and in September, October at 2-1 with an ERA just over 2.
You see conspicuous by their absence the entire starting
take a look at
Mets
Mets defense
outfield.
presented by your Tri-State Cadillac dealers.
Has taken
the only regulars today are
lessons
Lindor
he's learned from the last two springs when he only played a minimal number of games later in
second
spring.
base. He always was a shortstop
late again
as a kid. And Beatty,
starting
this is a big spring training for him. I'm going to have my eyes pinned on how Brett does.
Early next week.
Hoping he has a big camp.
Tremendous during live BP by their absence, coming back from the double starting Mets outfield. Messed up this year last year.
Brandon Nimmo played a lot of winter ball, so he's good to go.
Harrison Bader is the other. Lessons he's learned from the last two springs when he only played a minimal number of games later in spring. And so he's going to start late again this day on the field. Starting Marte, who's always been a late starter, is probably going to play as soon as early next week. He looked last year tremendous. 25 starts, second most on the club. Coming back from the double groin surgery that really messed up his year last year.
And he played a lot of winter ball, so he's good to go.
And we're underway. The other it's February 24th, Ronnie, and we're still a few days away from playing. Here's Bader. Seems to get earlier and to stay on the field every year more effectively this year. Tyler McGill, now 28 years old.
Watching Tyler this afternoon.
Last year made 25 starts, second most on the club. Brandon Donovan leads off the Cardinals in the first pitch of spring training baseball is a fastball that misses for ball one. Kodai Senga, and we're underway. Pitch he imitated. It's February 24th, Ronnie, and we're underway. Cardinals have a leadoff base runner. Seems to get earlier and earlier to his every year forkball as the Americans.
Well, folks at home, if you're watching Tyler this afternoon, very nice little slider that was supposed to be that he has developed, which he hopes will be a very effective third pitch things that happen with that fastball and slider.
In deference to Kodai Senga, who's Lars Nootbaar, who projects to be the everyday left fielder for the Cardinals in the leadoff base center field for them last year. McGill is referring to his moving Tommy Edman as the American out to center field to play full time. The ghost
Edman had surgery in the offseason, and he won't start his spring training until late as well. A little too long. Those are the kind of things that happen in spring training.
Nootbaar had over 400 bats for the Cardinals last year at 261. Lars Nootbaar, who projects to be the everyday left fielder for the Cardinals this year, played a lot of center field for them last year. He played for the Japanese WBC team last spring. His mom is from Japan. Out to center field to play full time. He had never
Edman had surgery in the offseason, and he won't start his spring training until late as well.
In Japan, and was asked to do an enormous number of 400 bats for the Cardinals last year, 261 with 14 home runs. The most popular Cardinal in Tokyo. He played for the Japanese WBC team last spring. His mom is from Japan. He had never been to Japan. He had never spoken Japanese, has a base hit, but he became a folk hero. The Cardinals have the first two men on in Japan, and was asked to do an enormous number of endorsements for Japanese products as a result of his tour with the Japanese team.
Nootbaar was able to fight it off. He had a 1.575 whip. That's going to have to change. You can't spend the entire game with this many runners on base.
141 hits and 126 innings. Nootbaar has a base hit. Walker, and so the Cardinals have the first two men on the opening inning last year.
This is something we saw a lot.
Put him on the opening day roster.
Last year,
a fastball,
nice play by Nito to pick it out of the dirt. But it's up a little bit.
Walker started the year in the big leagues, got off to a great start, and then after the great start,
that's going to have to change. You can't spend the entire game with this many runners on base.
141 hits and 126 innings. Walker firming up his defense, who had he spent a tremendous spring last year with Jose Oquendo. Put him on the opening day roster. Cutter there by McGill on fastball. Nice play by Nito to pick it out of the dirt. Walker started the year in the big leagues, four players hit start, and then Cardinals had a weird offensive sent to the minors. They were fifth in the league in home runs whole year, seventh in on base, sixth. They've been most interested in Walker firming up his defense
because they led the majors.
Spent the winter in Jupiter
on base,
working with Jose Oquendo.
Baseball fans
a good cutter
know
there by
Nolan
McGill, and it's 1-1.
And know that he hit 27 home runs. I would say very few.
So the Cardinals had four players in his first year, won an NL Central title last year. They were fifth in last place, home runs, and the slider seventh in on base, sixth in slugging. The runners up should have a good offensive year.
But they were 10th in runs scored because they led the majors.
All right, little sloppy start
runners
here
on base.
How many Mets? That's a ball that's got to be fans there by Nito. No Nolan Gorman. Trying to know that he hit 27 home runs. I would say very few. Kind of short hop sliders.
Nito trying to fight his way in his first year, won an NL Central title last year.
Re-signed a 2-year deal
and the slider bounces away from Nito on that major league contract, but to second and third. Down on the depth chart. He's pulled over the back.
Little sloppy
foul.
start here.
For the Mets, that's a ball that's got to be handled there by Nito. His backup this year.
Trying to pick it. We see more and more catchers trying to pick those kind of short hop sliders.
He's trying to fight his way back for everybody else after being taken off the 40-man roster.
He signed a 2-year deal before
last year, so he's still under a major league contract, but infield back with down on the depth chart, and the slider pulled over the back with foul.
You can see that so far.
Figured out Francisco Alvarez with Omar Narvaez as his backup this year.
Donovan with one.
So Nito.
The plan is for the Mets starters first time
trying to
play for everybody else.
Pitches.
Remember, they have the spring training rule.
29 other teams
out there. Come out in the middle of an inning and go back in the next inning if your pitch count
infield back with nobody out
too high. So he's already thrown 14 pitches without an out.
See that so far. McGill has not really hit with
so if
any
he gets to 20, they could take him out, bring somebody else in, and then send it back out there for the second.
The plan is for the Mets starters first time around to throw 2 innings or 30 pitches. Remember, they have the spring training rule that 73 and come out in the middle of an inning and go back in the next inning.
Remember having a tough first
count in any particular inning gets too high. So here he's already thrown 14 pitches without an out
in
the first inning. So if he gets to 20, they could take him out, bring somebody else in, and then send him back out there for the second.
Usually your first start would be 3+ innings in the 80s in those days, and that you were really told not to use your breaking pitches.
73 and sunny. Ninth pitch of the at-bat coming, and he struck him out.
I remember having a tough first inning, and the manager saying, well,
Walker
looks like you better figure out how to get some outs because you got to get your work in. And then if you didn't throw enough pitches,
the Cardinals go on 71 and 91 last year. They have not had
usually your first start would be 3+ innings in the 80s in those days. And that
since
you were
1958,
really told not to use your breaking pitches. Mostly
so that's
all
what they'll be trying to avoid. Ninth pitch of the at-bat coming, and he struck him out. Competitive National League Central.
Fans Walker for the first
saw that's
out.
the first time with 90+ losses since 1990. That's also the last time
the
they finished in last
Cardinals
place.
71 and 91 last year. They have not had back-to-back.
Here's Ivan Herrera, who figures to be the
backup
in full to Wilson Contreras this year.
Since 1958, 1959.
Wow. So that's what they'll be trying to avoid.
Catcher, and I find it fascinating.
Very competitive.
That the Cardinals
National League Central.
Yachty Molina for a decade
saw
and
that's
a half.
The first time with 90 losses,
Wilson Contreras
90+ losses since
and Ivan
1990.
Herrera.
That's also the last time they finished in last place, which they did last year.
Here's Ivan Herrera, who figures to be the backup to Wilson Contreras this year.
And it's got a little bit of big league time last year.
He is a bat-first catcher, and I find it fascinating that the Cardinals, who had Yachty Molina for a decade and a half, now have Wilson Contreras and Ivan Herrera, both of whom are bat-first
lots
catchers.
of home runs or lots of RBIs.
That's a grounder to the right side that'll bring in the first run.
By Nito.
It's 2-1. Herrera as Donovan comes home. It's 1-0
was so special that they needed him behind the plate, whether he hit or not. He made himself into a very dangerous hitter. What I mean by that, good in RBI situations. He wasn't a guy that was
by bringing
lots of home runs or lots of RBIs.
Not Molina in just a grounder to the right side that'll bring in the first run. Created a lot of unease around the St. Louis team because I think it's 1-0 St. Louis. It wasn't just how good a catcher he was the unquestioned leader and just took care of so much. Molina loomed that relieved other people of responsibilities that when his presence disappeared, it's like the whole team sagged. Not Molina in just about every way. They had a great year in AAA. It created a lot of unease around the St. Louis team because I think
from the pitching staff,
it wasn't just how good a catcher he was. He was the unquestioned leader and just took care of so much
Yadier did
that relieved other people of responsibilities that when his presence disappeared, it's like the whole team sagged. As Luke and Baker is DHing today, had a great year in AAA last year.
Well, the problem is you had a lot of chirping back and forth from the pitching staff.
Atmosphere has changed for stolen bases.
Wilson Contreras, the coaching staff, on his ability to call the games as well as
between
Yadier
how many
did.
stolen bases there
were.
That's
a bad place to be if you're a team, especially if you just gave that guy Wilson Contreras a big contract.
That's like Ricky Henderson against the world.
That's right.
Baker takes fastball, call strike.
He has not called it.
This atmosphere has changed for stolen bases since Molina retired. Look at that. He thought it was strike three. How many stolen bases there were against the Cardinals?
I guess we're all
while Molina was playing for them every other training for umpires. That's like Ricky Henderson against the world.
That's right.
McGill trying to put this inning to bed on his 25th fastball, call strike.
No,
he just missed with that fastball. 3-2.
He has not called it. This umpire's struggled so far, right down the middle, and
I think he thought it was strike three.
He has missed some fastballs right down the middle. But
mentioned Baker, I guess we're all working. Last year, AAA, in spring training for umpires, RBIs in 84 games. That's good. Trying to put this inning to bed on his 25th pitch.
He reminds me a little
that fastball 3-2.
Almost the same number, I think, maybe. Steve Balboni.
Yeah.
Here we go, right down the middle, and we are.
And think about this, Baker, when he's in high school, was a two-way player. Imagine that guy coming down the hill. Mentioned Baker had a big year last year at AAA. 33 homers, 98 RBIs in 84 games. And McGill strikes him out with a fastball.
He has
so McGill limits the damage to one run, fans a couple.
He reminds me a little, almost the same number, I think, maybe. Steve Balboni.
Yeah.
I see him in there.
That's a good call. And think about this, Baker, when he was in high school, was a two-way player. Imagine that guy coming down the hill at you.
No.
And McGill strikes him out with a fastball. So McGill limits the damage to one run. Fans a couple in his first spring inning. He started the year in the big leagues as a reliever, as you said.
That starting lineup brought to you by your local Honda dealers.
They sent him down to be a starter, and he was
Vientos, the regulars in there. DJ Stewart.
Strike three is the strike zone's a little larger for Thompson. Apparently, than it was
stayed with the Mets after a terrific finish to his season.
Zach Thompson last year, 9 starts for the Redbirds. Started the spring training last year as a reliever, but then they sent him down start, and he's going to get shot at one of the spots in the rotation this year.
Lands the curveball for a strike, and it's 2-2. It was weird the way they handled Thompson last year because he started the year in the big leagues as a reliever, and he had some success, and he sent him down to be a starter, and he was awful. I mean, he pitched a strike three.
Took a bad step.
The strike zone's a little larger for Thompson apparently than was for McGill.
Fourth year now with the Mets from Lindor. Last year he played 160 games.
Anyway, so they set Thompson down, and 34 innings he walked 39 guys. But then he came back to the big leagues and he actually made some good starts for them.
He already well over 7 during those minor league innings.
Lindor takes ball one. Francisco cut off his first 30-year last year. Only the fourth Met to accomplish 30 homers, 30 steals. Howard Johnson, Darryl Strawberry, David Wright,
pretty good job of framing
and now
that,
Francisco
considering you
Lindor.
didn't know it was coming.
And Thompson took that step there as he misses with curve, and it's 2-0. Fourth year now with the Mets for Lindor.
Francisco gets his
Last year played 160 games despite a bad elbow. Year before he played 161 games despite fracturing his finger.
And pulled it between the hole. And the hole between third and shortstop.
A bit of a cross up there. You don't have too many those anymore with the pitch count.
It's kind of hard to cross up when no one's on base either. I mean, come on, guys. But this is the things that happen.
So much of the conversation.
So he's waiting for the express. He gets a low, pretty good job of framing that, though. Considering he didn't know it was coming.
Steve Cohen put it.
Lindor swings 3-0 and has a base hit.
I hope he gets 55 home runs. It'll cost me a lot of money.
Wow.
So Francisco gets his spring training off to a good start with the 1-out single.
He got it started early, fastball down the middle and up.
It's hit back to Thompson. Nice
He's got right on top of that and pulled it between hole and the hole between third and shortstop.
That keeps the Mets out of the double
Hit
play.
right on the nose by Lindor. That's a nice way to start your spring.
Strike 6, a 1-4 fielder's choice.
So now Pete Alonso, and so much of this conversation that's been around
Nice job by
Pete has
Thompson. Ball hit
been
one
about
hopper, makes the
where the
turn, takes
future
his
will
time,
hold.
and makes a nice
I like the
throw.
way Steve Cohen put it
Like I said,
in his interview with Howie Rose. He said, I hope he gets 55 home runs. It cost me a lot of money.
Wow. I love that he said, I'm not tone deaf. I know what's going on here.
I mean, here's the thing. Brett had 353 at-bats for the Mets last year. A 1-4 fielder's choice.
Never really found traction.
And he's hoping that
Well, nice job by Thompson. Ball hit one hopper, makes the turn, takes his time, and makes a nice throw.
In the air more.
Like I said, it's a little sloppy so far for this game.
Did I mention it's February 24th?
It is February 24th.
Rivas makes the play. Getting over.
Here's Brett Beatty.
1-0 Cardinals after one.
Brett had 353 at-bats for the Mets last year. Never really found traction. And he's hoping that a lot of off-season work to try and firm up his top hand and get the ball in the air more will change those things around. It's the one hopper down to first. Rivas makes the play. Inning over. Conversation.com. About the mention pants in there anywhere.
And I don't really know that much about the pants.
Alfonso Rivas against his former college teamate Tyler McGill.
You're telling me I can talk about
both came out of the University of Arizona, both drafted in 2018. Rivas in the 4th round to Oakland. McGill
Lindor can't quite get to that.
in the 8th round of the Mets.
But as a fan,
I saw Rivas a lot as a Cub a couple of years ago. Last year played for the Padres and the Pirates.
Is that the names and the numbers have shrunk to Lilliputian size.
I mean, you spend your entire life.
You know, there's been so much conversation this spring about the uniforms,
drills, whatever,
and I don't really know that much about the pants. You can probably speak to that better. All I know is that the jerseys.
You're telling me I can talk about sheer pants better than you?
Well, you can talk about uniform pants and how they fit and what they're supposed to be like, and Lindor can't quite get to that, and Rivas has a base hit. But as a fan, as an observer, what I notice immediately is that the names and the numbers have shrunk to Lilliputian size.
I mean, you spend your entire life
athletic wear.
Hitting in the cage, running drills, whatever, so you can have a big name in the back and a big number. And very difficult for me to see him on the field right now. I mean, McGill, he's too big of a guy to have those little legs. Come on.
Much more.
It seems as though what's happened is that in an effort to make the jerseys more athletic, thinner, stretchier, lighter weight, moisture wicking, all those things that make them good athletic wear.
Deference to those of us,
that in trying to reduce the weight, they change the size of the lettering. That you don't want to have big embroidery like that on a lighter, stretchier jersey.
I mean, that really reveals the difference.
Right, stands out. Alonso last year, much more emphatic way. Buddy Kennedy fouls him off.
The font represents how I used to see and how I'm seeing now.
Well, that's a good point also, because, you know, often the Major League Baseball audience skews older. And so in deference to those of us, you know,
double play goes 6-4-3.
Ability to discern might be diminished somewhat.
On the bus trip back to Jupiter.
Should be making the names larger, not smaller.
The slip and the fall.
Flipping, falling.
Alonso last year.
We've seen someone slip and fall like that since Milwaukee many moons ago.
See Hunter Wendelstedt there in midseason form. Good close-up. Two out of Kennedy playing third base today. Hits one on the ground to Lindor. The turn by Iglesias, and Kennedy fell coming out of the batter's box.
And he is out by 70 feet at first base.
Scouting scale. A double play goes 6-4-3. Last year in the minor leagues.
That will be discussed on the bus trip back to Jupiter by his teammates. The slip and the fall. So an 80 major leaguer would be the Trey Turners, the Ellie De La Cruzes, those guys. I've seen someone slip and fall like that since Milwaukee many moons ago.
See Hunter Wendelstedt there in midseason form. Good close-up.
Two out and nobody on. Here's Victor Scott.
Came out of West Virginia University.
His mom and his dad.
Scott's an interesting guy.
Sprinters. So he came by
you know how they have the 20 to 80 scouting scale?
Nice spring souvenir.
They call him an 80 runner.
Oh, he's giving it to his dad.
Last year in the minor leagues, Victor Scott stole 94 bases. That's single A and double A.
And 94. Fastball from McGill.
So an 80 major leaguer would be the Trey Turners, the Ellie De La Cruzes, those guys, right?
Right, the absolute top of the line. Scott came out of West Virginia University. His mom and his dad were both college sprinters.
Oh,
so he came by his running ability, honestly. There's a nice spring souvenir.
Oh, he's giving it to his dad.
And a high fastball from McGill finishes off his stint, so a much better second inning for Tylor, his third strikeout. Mark Vientos leading off the home second.
Mark is DHing today.
Well, you see the Cardinals defense.
Wait a second, it's the second inning.
Well, see what he did last year in the minors and what he did in the majors, and the wide gap between the two. 218 big league at bats last year for Vientos, who when he first came up got only a scattering
playing second base today
of opportunities.
Iglesias was not in the big leagues at all last year. He played handful of games.
He's now 24 years old, and he hits one past the mound, and right there is Donovan behind the bag,
which I find
Vientos one away.
Because, you know, Iglesias is a wizard. He's got hands like Omar Vizquel.
Well, you see the Cardinals defense.
Wait a second, it's the second inning.
Well, we're lucky we didn't get to it in the fifth. Gamboa is at shortstop, which I find interesting because Mason Wynn is their shortstop of the future, and had a little procedure early in camp, but he should be back soon.
Great range. So say Iglesias playing second base today. Iglesias was not in the big leagues at all last year. He played just a handful of games in AAA in the Padres organization. They released him in June, and
Lindor and
nobody re-signed him, which I find intriguing because
and the difference,
you know, Iglesias is a wizard. He's got hands like Omar Vizquel used to have hands,
and exactly the way the textbook tells you to do it.
What's interesting about that is that the eye test has always favored him, and he's always hit enough to stay in the lineup.
Yeah.
But the metrics are just the advanced metrics do not favor him as much because he doesn't have great range.
He plays. You know, when I
had a chance a few days ago. Just watch the Mets taking infield practice
kind of a flashy player,
and watching Lindor and Iglesias together alternating taking ground balls at short, and the difference between the two of them was so stark. Where Lindor is just his mechanics are perfect, right? He does it exactly the way the textbook tells you to do it. And when he was a Gold Glove caliber shortstop, Iglesias, all he do is just snatch the ball.
Yeah.
But he said his hands are just so incredible.
There's such a flair to the way he plays. You know, when I watch Lindor field, I think we all thought of Jimmy Rollins as kind of a flashy player, but he was not a flashy defensive player. He was by the book. And that's what Lindor is like. He is by the book as far as the shortstop and his positioning, his feet. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to watch.
I asked Lindor about it afterward, and he said, you know, that when he was in Cleveland and Iglesias was in Detroit, he said, you know, they would have little defensive battles. But he said he loved taking ground balls next to him. He said, in Francisco's words, he can do things I can't do.
Knocked down on the backhand by Kennedy. His throw to first on a hop in time as Iglesias goes to second.
Oh, there's that. On his knee, the flat glove. See how he just popped it into his hand.
To throw out Thompson.
What's good about that drill is it kind of gets how can you make your hands, even with a wooden block on it, soft enough to receive the ball. That's what it's all about.
We talk about the great second baseman turning double plays where they just basically paddles the glove to hand the way Bill Mazeroski used to do it in the old days.
Outright it off. Here's Trace Thompson. He pulls one down to third. Knocked down on the backhand by Kennedy. His throw to first on a hop in time as Iglesias goes to second.
Somebody told me today, and it's the truth.
Good recovery by Kennedy to throw out Thompson.
He's the fourth highest paid Mets catcher.
Backhand. Gets him high on the glove, almost on the wrist, and then bounces to throw on purpose to just get Thompson at first.
Too soon, Gary. So 2 out and a runner at second for Tomas Nido, who had just 56 big league at bats last year before he was sat down and eventually outrighted off the roster. Somebody told me today, and it's the truth, that Francisco Alvarez is the fourth highest paid Mets catcher this year. Nido, Narvaez, and James McCann, whom the Mets are still paying. Hunter Parsons will pitch for the Mets in the third. Tyler McGill went 2, a lot of run on 2 hits.
See the 37 games split between AA and AAA, relieving and starting for Hunter with the Texas Rangers.
Struggling with his control, 4.3 walks per 9 innings, but 10.6 strikeouts per 9 for the University of Maryland product.
Well, I couldn't take my eyes off.
The Mets drafted in the 19th round of the 2019 draft. We're number 19.
And you know, I didn't know if the
Cardinals settled for 97.
But they used that number.
Thompson was the first Cardinal to wear 57 since Derek Kyle passed away. It had been more than 20 years, and they felt he was a big enough prospect to justify him being the next.
59 was the highest number I had in my first big league camp.
Kyle,
with the Texas Rangers.
2002. Now you get guys wearing 59 in his career. That's a regular number. Not even a spring training away, and it's 3-2. Gamboa is from Venezuela.
Well, but I couldn't take my eyes off the Cardinals pitcher when he first went out there because he had number 57 on.
Is cricket.
And you know, I didn't know if the Cardinals
like the low ball
ever used that number.
Thompson was the first Cardinal to wear 57 since Derek Kyle passed away. It had been more than 20 years, and they felt he was a big enough prospect to justify him being the next guy to wear it.
It's crazy. That's all I could think about is when I saw the number.
The three of us get passed away in 2002. You know what's happened over the height of his career. Archimedes Gamboa takes low and away. It's 3-2. Gamboa is from Venezuela. He's not here, but he grew up in a town on the coast. Giria, where the main sport is cricket. That's like the low ball. Keith and his brother Gary takes up and away for ball 4. Parsons walks his first batter. And this weekend, so conspicuous by his absence today is our good friend number 17. Hall of Fame. I mean, normally the first spring broadcast, the three of us get together and we talk about
you know what's happened over the last few months, and it's our first game back together. But here it is, the first spring broadcast, and Keith's not here. Gary was a he does have a good excuse, though.
He always has a good excuse.
He always has an excuse.
Fly ball into shallow left by
Keith and his brother Gary grew up in Pacifica, California, and this weekend they are both being inducted into the Pacifica
just one of the great
Sports Hall of Fame.
Has spent a lot of his life
I think
talking or advocating for his
it's a no-brainer for Keith because he's Keith. But I think it's especially special for Keith because Gary's going into
great years in California.
Gary was a tremendous star at University of California
by people
who made it to Double-A in the minors. Fly ball into shallow left by Brendan Donovan, and that's going to fall for a hit. A dunk shot by Donovan, and the Cardinals have the first 2 men on in the third.
I mean, he is Gary, who's just one of the great guys of all time. Has spent a lot of his life talking or advocating for his brother, and never ever talking about his own career. And now they'll have a chance to do it together. I think that's great.
Yeah, Gary had one of the great years in Cal Bears history, and
was inducted into the
remembered very fondly by people who watch Pac-12 or whatever it is. It's going to be nothing in a few months once the baseball season is over. But it used to be the Pac-8 back in those days when Gary was playing.
40 Yale ex-teammates.
There's Lars Newtbar, who had a base hit to left field his first time up.
Park, Kansas, and wore their Yale sweaters with the Y's on them.
Keith
and sang out the Bulldog
is not the only one who has been recently enshrined. Ronnie, a couple of weeks ago, much belatedly, was inducted into the National College Baseball Hall of Fame.
Newtbar finds the hole.
Well, it was, I'll tell you, it was awesome. My family on the right and there. What I look like in that Yale uniform, but I was surprised by 40 Yale ex-teammates from football and baseball who traveled all the way to Overland Park, Kansas, and wore their Yale sweaters with the Y's on them and sang out the Bulldog song, much to probably the chagrin of all those Midwesterners.
The Whip and Poofs couldn't make it.
They couldn't make it, but they really they made it such a special event for me, my ex-teammates. And
Newtbar finds the hole.
So walk again, Bullock coming around to score. The throw to third by Stewart, and just in there safely is Donovan, and down to second goes Newtbar on the throw. Good throw from right field by DJ Stewart. And he just missed getting Donovan. Gamboa scores to make it 2-0 St. Louis.
Well, we saw the defense of DJ Stewart over the course of the summer last year. He was DH mostly in Baltimore. And by the end of the summer, he was very good out there in right field. Made some great diving catches. And here a throw right on time to Beatty.
A no-hitter into the 12th inning. To me, your college career
walking 2 base hits, produce a run, second and third, nobody out.
Jordan Walker, the batter.
Game started. 28 complete games. That's popped up on the infield. A chance for Beatty on a windy day. Tracks it into fair territory and makes the grab for the first out.
No, I mean, you got to fall on your face at least once. Different times, though, then. And also,
I think when people talk about your college career, Ronnie, the thing that they talk about most was the game against Frank Viola, where you
kind of knew it was
pitched a no-hitter into the 12th inning.
Proud because that was the last
time. To me,
that I really got to
your
play
college
baseball.
career is defined by this statistic.
And
28 games started, 28 complete games.
It's your occupation, it's your job, you know?
I mean, it speaks a certain era in baseball, but at the same time, I mean, come on.
No, I mean, you got to fall on your face at least once. Your last chance of just different times, though, then. And also, the depth that you would have on a ball club for a Yale team would not be what some other great colleges would have. So when you took the ball, you kind of knew it was your day. But I was always proud because that was the last time that I really got to play baseball. I also played in the field. And once you become a major league pitcher, it's kind of it's your occupation, it's your job, you know. But when you're playing college athletics, baseball anyways, maybe not basketball and football, which are so serious, it's really your last chance of just enjoying the amateur part of collegiate athletics.
I might also point out that in college baseball you get the doubleheader on Saturday, and both games are 7 innings.
That's right.
But you play the single game on Friday, and so your best pitcher is your Friday pitcher, and you were always the Friday pitcher. So you didn't get the 7-inning games for those complete games. Those were all full 9.
If I were
2-2 to Herrera, and he hits one on the ground. It's short booted by Lindor. The runners will hold. The throw to first is in time. So no contact play with 1 out.
Especially with a guy like
Donovan was holding at third base, and Lindor was able to recover and throw out Herrera with no advance.
Okay, 2 parts to this play, right? We were talking about Lindor and how impeccable he is. Now listen, this is a tough play. He's kind of just off in the grass. In the dirt. So that ball, when it hits the dirt, it's a very tricky hop. So he did exactly what you're supposed to do. Get down and block it because he knows he'll have plenty of time. Why weren't they running on contact? If I were the manager, I don't have one of the players who's going to really mean something to me this year. Brendan Donovan running on contact in a spring training game, especially the first one.
Well, especially with a guy like Donovan who's coming off serious elbow surgery that shortened his season last year. You don't want him getting involved in a home plate collision.
There are decisions that you make in spring training that certainly you wouldn't make during the regular year, just to protect your players from injury or harm.
Peralta is left with a whole bunch of question marks third year in that rotation. Managing the Cardinals.
Was a big part of the rotation here now.
Lucan Baker struck out his first time up, and he fouls one away. That's opened the year against the Brewers on March 28th. He also closed last year. The Brewers ran away with the National League Central. The Cubs had a better than expected year. The Reds, with all their young talent, they're on the way up. Borderline spectacular. The Brewers, though, this year, man,
Devin Williams, who might be
they're kind of unrecognizable. They have been so reliant on those big 3 starters.
Well, they'll have a great bullpen. They've got
Corbin
a lot
Burns,
of young
Brandon Woodruff,
well
Freddie Peralta. Only Peralta is left with a whole bunch of question marks behind him in that rotation.
And Hauser was a big part of the rotation here now in New York. Got some good young players. But they lost
the year against the Brewers on March 28th.
Who went to the Cubs.
He also closed the season against the Brewers.
Rid2 coming and Baker
bookended season with the Brew Crew.
Now, that having been said about their rotation, their bullpen is borderline spectacular, led by Devin Williams, who might be the best reliever who's not named Edwin Diaz in the major leagues.
The third baseman. They'll have a great bullpen. They've got a lot of young players as well that started out nicely last year. The Mets know a lot about that. And then through injury and other reasons didn't finish off their year. So they got some good young players. But they lost one of the best young managers, I believe, in the game, who went to the Cubs.
High-profile pitchers like Rid2 coming and Baker fouls back. And for the Cubs, they're still hoping to sign Cody Bellinger back, and that would make an enormous difference in the way they are perceived.
I thought for a while they were going to sign both Bellinger and Chapman, the third baseman. That would serve them well.
To make it 4-0 St. Louis. 8th pitch of the at-bat coming to Baker. And he just got a piece of that slider.
If you had Chapman in third, Swanson at short, corner at second base, that's about as good as it gets for a defensive infield. Well, gets jammed just a bit.
Well, Bellinger's still out there, along with some
into center field for a couple of
high-profile pitchers like Snell and Jordan Montgomery. You wonder at what point
Parsons,
any one of those guys, particularly Bellinger,
here in the third.
A little floater into center. That's going to fall for a base hit. Going to bring in Donovan. Nootbaar right behind him. The throw is cut off by Alonso. So Baker drives in a pair to make it 4-0 St. Louis.
Would be willing at some point to say, okay, give me a 1-year deal.
Baker drove in 98 runs in 84 AAA games last year. Drives in a pair.
Well, gets jammed just a bit, but he's so big and strong that he was able to muscle that into center field for a couple of RBIs. Call off the jam. Right. He deserves the 8-year contract.
Right. It's almost like a lot of teams are reluctant to
Hunter
believe
Parsons
in last year to the extent where they're willing to
having trouble here in the third. length
give up 3 runs
and make that kind of commitment. Anyway, I was talking about. I wonder
just
when
know if I was still out there,
any of those guys, in particular Bellinger, because he's younger,
to me,
would be
1st would be my day.
willing at some point to say, okay, give me a 1-year deal. I'll bet on myself and go for it next year.
Especially because he has a unique career, right? He was so good his first couple of years, then kind of lost his way. If he could put together 2 good seasons in a row, then it's all, the call off the jam.
Right.
He deserves the 8-year contract.
Right. It's almost like a lot of teams are reluctant to believe in last year to the extent where they're willing to give him the big interest length contract and make that kind of commitment. Even if it does come down to
I just know if I was still out there as one of the premier free agents, to me, March 1st would be my day. Where I would start to get a little anxious and nervous about my future in 2024.
Some of their younger guys, both position players and cutter for a strike there from Parsons at a 1-1. Establish themselves, see if they're part of the least for the moment, although you never know how things might change.
You lose a guy like Senga,
it does not appear as though the Mets are going to have interest in any of those 3 guys, even if it does come down to a 1-year deal. Now, would Bellinger or Snell or Montgomery make them a better team this year? Unquestionably.
Yes.
But they're trying to stick with a plan that involves making room for some of their younger guys, both position players and pitchers, to move up the chain, establish themselves, see if they're part of the future.
You have to really show a lot of patience, though, don't you? Because you lose a guy like Senga, and you have that kind of talent out there that you could acquire. It's very difficult.
Alfonso Rivas takes strike 3 call. And so Parsons able to put an end to a laborious inning. 4-0 in 18, and the Blue Jays traded him to the Cardinals at the deadline last summer for Jordan Hicks, who is now attempting to be a starting pitcher with the Giants.
I'm trying to figure out what the Giants did this one. I'm having trouble. They took a reliever. Hicks, who's so good. But what's going on here between pitcher and umpire?
But
who's so good at what he does, and they're going to try to make him a starter. And when he was a starter with the Cardinals, he struggled.
I think they called a clock violation on Kloppenstein.
He's going to be a big league star, and others aren't quite so sure.
It's 3-1.
That the Giants, I believe,
Colway
last year
takes outside. That should be ball 4
last year. So that was last in baseball.
He didn't know
that Lee is going to help them steal some bases.
Colway, the former Padre, has a leadoff walk against Kloppenstein. DJ was certainly a bright spot. And it'll be interesting to see how the mix winds up as far as the Mets DH position is concerned. You've got Stewart, you've got Vientos. They brought in both Luke Voit and Ji-Man Choi, who both profile as first base DH types. But then you also have guys like Marte or Nimmo, who you might want to DH part of the time, or Alonso for that matter.
Well, when you sign guys like Voit and whoever, you're looking for depth, right? The problem with those players, they've played a lot in the major leagues. Usually by the middle of May, they usually have an out if they're not in the major leagues.
I mean, I think in a lot of these cases, it's a matter of just watching these guys in spring training and seeing what you got. I mean, the same goes as they look toward the middle, and a nice play by Donovan. They get the force and not the double play. Stewart able to hustle down the line and beat the Rapid first. 1 out. It goes for Trace Thompson too. I mean, Thompson has been an effective guy in the past as a part-time player, but had a really bad year last year. Just trying to see what's there.
It works both ways. What happens sometimes is that the team wants to sign players for depth, but sometimes the players just want to get into a camp,
right?
And show all of baseball what they can do.
There's Lindor, who batting right-handed, got a base hit on a 3-0 pitch his first time up. Now he bats left-handed against the sinker baller Kloppenstein. We were talking before about the size of the lettering on the jerseys. In some cases, it's a blessing.
Out to left center field. The wind's going to knock this down. Nootbaar is there to grab it for the second out. I mean, if you're Kloffenstein and they have the old lettering, you're going armpit to armpit. Now it's a tighty fit.
That's right. I mean, it works for Crow Armstrong, right? The former Mets #1 pick who is in Chicago.
Smith Najigba.
I know, I saw
and
that.
Encarnacion Strand. It's the hyphen guys who really get you. There's Pete Alonso, grounded into a fielder's choice his first time up. And he shoots one the other way. Jordan Walker coming toward the line, picks it off, and that retires the side. A walk and one left after 3 in Port St. Lucie. 4-0 Cards. Some of the drills going on before the game. Trying to work on agility. I like that. What will they think of next?
Is that Antoine Richardson working with the outfielders? That's cool. He's a new coach for us.
Mets first base coach this year. Some of the stuff going on in the backfields right now. Mike Sarbaugh, the Mets' new third base coach. Eric Chavez back where he belongs as the hitting coach alongside Jeremy Barnes, former Blue Jays skipper, and former Mets catcher John Gibbons, now the bench coach.
Can't wait to spend some time talking with Gibby.
Josh Walker will come on to pitch for the Mets as we go to the 4th inning. Luis Angel Acuna takes over for Francisco Lindor at shortstop. Walker's first pitch hit out to right by Buddy Kennedy. DJ Stewart looking through the sunglasses has it, 1 out.
Well, I don't know if you felt this way, Gary, but watching Josh Walker throw last year, his stuff is big league ready. His control is what he's going to have to work on and be a little more refined and be able to throw that breaking pitch for strikes whenever he wants to.
I had a long talk with Josh a couple of days ago, and he was telling me that the physical therapists, sports science people looked at all of his motion and attributes, and they said the one thing that he was lacking was strength in his right hip. Right, that's the hip he steps toward home plate with. And he said he worked really hard on his core and his right hip, and he said the results that he's had this spring is that his slider's been sharper and his fastball's gained a couple of miles of velocity.
Well, you want that right hip for a left-hander pitcher to land, that foot to land before, well, really when your arm is coming through, right? You want it to be almost simultaneous, and then the back pocket, the back left hip will come through. But that right hip is so important for a left-hander.
Right. What he said was that foot was landing late because he didn't have as much strength as he needed to in that hip. That's hit past his ear and into center field. Scary hit off the bat of Victor Scott. And now Walker's going to have to contend with Scott and his stolen base ability.
Well, Scott struck out in his first time on a fastball upstairs. Did not miss this one, though. It's the one thing you don't want in spring training. Come right by you, boy.
Oh, man.
Went by him faster than it went in.
So Scott, who stole 94 bases in the minors last year. A test for Walker with Archimedes Gamboa at the plate. And that's it toward the middle and off the glove of Iglesias, and everybody's safe. Walker let that ball go thinking that he'd have a fielder in the way, but it was a little too sneaky.
A couple of seasons ago that would have been an easy double play, but not the same anymore. So first, what Gary was talking about, and Josh Walker maybe could have made a play but decided not to. Oh, that's the first one. Sorry, missed that. Victor Scott's bullet up the middle. And then this one, watch Iglesias. He tried to flip that with the backhand to get that force at second base, but didn't glove it properly.
Thomas Saggese will be the pinch hitter. That's S-A-G-G-E-S-E. Saggese. Murph would always do that. He'd always spell the name.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Like a teacher.
Exactly. Now I have to be more specific now when I tell old Bob Murphy stories. And a reverse spin, and that's a balk. Walker got the signal a little late from Iglesias, who was standing there waiting, and did not execute that well.
See, what you want to do if you're a left-handed pitcher is you want to sit over the mound, lift your leg, and then place it backwards, not frontwards, and he ended up just right in the middle and lost his balance, and it became an easy call for the umpires.
Have to step toward the base. Runner at first, Gamboa knew it, so the infield comes in now with second and third and one out. So I was saying I have to be specific now when I talk about Bob Murphy stories, because we're going to have another Murph in the booth.
That's right. That is great.
Daniel Murphy will be joining us for a couple of games next week.
Really looking forward to that.
That'll be fun. You know, I always said about Daniel, he had a great voice for radio or TV. And he's so analytical about the game.
He's got such great knowledge, and he's going to really help us in the booth wade through the different kinds of hitting styles and what guys are really working on now, considering he played last year.
One thing I'm really excited to talk to him about is Brett Beatty, because there's been so much talk this spring about Beatty and his top hand. And I thought Jeremy Barnes said something very interesting. He said, for right-hand throwers who are left-hand hitters, it's always a challenge to get that top hand over and have it be strong. And of course, Murph was a right-hand thrower, left-hand hitter, and certainly learned over the course of his career how to make that work. Beatty with the throw home, and gets away from Nito, and 2 runs are going to score on the play. And down to second goes Saggese. It was a good throw by Beatty. He was right there, but it's squirted by Nito. And Scott and Gamboa both come home to score to make it 6-0.
Well, Beatty did everything you're supposed to do. Perfect play, gets it to Nito in time, and the bat really played a part there. When he went to make the tag, the bat was there, the runner Scott was there with all that great speed, and in that transition, Nito lost the ball. Oh boy, can he run.
It's got to be an 8-2, right? He's out.
Yeah, he was out.
Now Mike Antico is the pinch hitter.
Well, nice job by Beatty. Had to be a quick tag. Sometimes a runner like Scott's so fast that he jars it loose.
I mean, that makes it that much of a better play by Beatty to have his timing correct. Grabbed it first and dropped by Walker on the exchange. So the Mets having trouble hanging on to throws. First the ball gets away from Nito, and now Walker unable to grab Alonso's toss at first base.
Well, Pete makes it. This is a very difficult play. That's why they work on it so much. But that ball, when he tosses it, has to be at least at the belly button of Walker or in front of him. And it's behind him, making it an impossible play or a difficult play.
Would you call that knee 3 or knee 1?
A knee 3. And I'm not protecting the pitcher.
I'm just writing it down. You know, we don't. I'm sure there's an official scorer here, but it's kind of hard to hear. And whatever we write down on our scorecards, that's what it is. Jordan Walker pulls for a foul. I mean, there's no replay in spring training. Stats don't matter.
Well, what's interesting is that when they do the PFP, pitcher's fielding practice, they've done it 100 times already, but they do it at about 75%, and that was 100%. So that's why it might have sped up a little on Pete.
So just to show you that we really don't have an official scorer, you know what they just put up on the board?
What?
E5. Now I know it wasn't E5.
Was it old? It couldn't have been.
Previous play?
Yeah.
Well, that can't be an E5.
Exactly.
So I got E2 and E3 on my scorecard. So that's where we're That's what we're counting it as. Walker takes at his feet on the slider.
Walker's a really good athlete, and he's very fast, or he's got good speed. So he gets over there in plenty of time. Those big, long strides. And just behind him. It's really a hard play for the left-hander behind him. Right-hander has a chance at that play.
This is Walker versus Walker. And Jordan Walker, nice play by Beatty, out at second, and Iglesias will hang on to it. That's the second out as a run comes home to make it 7-0.
Well, I like the leather being flashed here so far by Beatty. Nice play to home, and here going far to his left, and you see there was no panic. He just got up and just kept the out in front of him.
Do you think Iglesias knew that there was only one out, or do you think that he just thought Walker was going to beat that play easily?
I think he thought Walker was going to beat that play easily.
There's Ivan Herrera, and he dunks one into shallow right for a base hit. I don't think Walker knew how many out there were because he stopped between first and second. It's the first game of spring training, Ronnie. It's a lot to catch up on. 2 out, keep on running. Francisco Lindor, after his first 2 at-bats of the spring.
Take 2 and barbecue.
There's Lucan Baker, who drove in a pair with a base hit his last time up. Cardinals taking advantage of a balk and a couple of errors to tack on 3 more runs here in the 4th. Be part of the excitement at Citi Field this season. Mets 2024 single game tickets are on sale now. Go to Mets.com/tickets today. Baker, the 8th man up in the inning against Josh Walker, is now throwing 20 pitches. Hunter Parsons threw 34 in the last inning. And slider runs inside. It's 2-1. Josh Walker grew up in Otisville, New York. Went to Minnesink Valley High School, where the assistant principal is former Met right-hander Dave Tailgater.
Wow.
How about that? Here's ball 4 to Baker. So he's on with a walk that loads the bases and prolongs the inning, and brings Jeremy Hefner out of the dugout.
Yeah, for the 2nd consecutive inning, Mets pitcher is stuck in a long inning.
Dave Tailgater pitched for the Mets in the early 90s. Got off to a great start in his career and bounced around for a couple of years, and then settled into a role as the assistant principal at Josh Walker's high school.
I don't remember, Dave. How did you spell his last name?
It was during your dark period.
Yeah, it was the dark.
Telghedere.
Okay.
Dave Tailgater.
Wow.
So Walker has given up 3 hits in the inning, a walk, a balk, and a couple of errors made behind him. And now Alfonso Rivas, the 9th man to bat in the inning, has singled to center and struck out. Bases loaded, 2 down. And a fastball for a strike. See the shadow of the clamshell grandstand just approaching the dirt behind home plate. And there's a hit by pitch to force in a run. So Rivas is struck. Second Cardinal has been hit by a pitch today, and it makes it 8-0 St. Louis. As Walker comes in to score.
That's a busy shirt.
Amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing.
Amazing.
So now Buddy Kennedy, who opened the inning with a first pitch fly ball to right. Looked like the inning was going to go smooth and things would go well for Walker, but it's all kind of collapsed since. 4 runs home in the inning, and just trying to get it over with now. Tries the backdoor slider and gets a strike, and it's 0-2. Buddy Kennedy, grandson of Don Money.
Oh, wow.
Played for the Brewers and the Phillies. In fact, Don Money is the answer to the trivia question. Who hit the first home run at Veterans Stadium?
Really?
Yeah. Phillies moved there in '71, I think.
I always remember Don Money as the third baseman for the Seattle Pilots before they went to Milwaukee.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why.
Well, he was probably featured in Ball 4.
Or yeah, Ball 4, and probably had his baseball card that said Seattle Pilots on it.
Was Don Money a bonus baby?
I think he was a bonus baby, but the Seattle Pilots didn't last very long.
Not just the 1 year, and then they moved right before the season began when used car salesman in Milwaukee bought the team.
That's right. Did pretty well for himself.
Yes, he did. It's in the Hall of Fame now. It is Dodniel Nunez up in the Mets bullpen. Check swing grounder down to Alonso. Now this time the connection is true. Cardinals sent 10 men to bat in that inning and scored 4 times. It's 8-0 St. Louis.
Change is never easy.
Here's the view from the berm in right field on a bright sunny day in Port St. Lucie. 73 degrees, just perfect. The breeze blowing in from the northwest. It's been pretty chilly by Florida standards over the last couple of weeks.
Have you been here for a few days?
I've been here since Tuesday night.
Oh, nice.
So I have to wear a little sweatshirt in the morning. Sometimes into the afternoon. Brett Beatty chops one behind the bag at second. Gamboa with the off-balance throw, and it gets by and goes into the dugout. And Beatty will get second base. Should be an infield hit for Beatty, who's going to beat it out anyway. And then Gamboa's throw kangarooed into the dugout.
You know what's interesting about young infielders is that he was able, by taking that path, to make the play. But you can't take that path because it doesn't allow you to make the play at first base. So he's able to catch the ball, but it's kind of the wrong way to go after the ball. If that makes any sense.
You'd have to have an exceptional arm to be able to take that angle and still get an out at first. Vientos hits the breaking ball in the air to shallow right. Walker having trouble with the sun and can't get to it. Beatty to third. He'll stop there. And the Mets have runners at the corners with nobody out. So a sun-aided single for Mark Vientos, and the Mets have the first 2 men out of the 4th.
Well, Walker had no chance right off the bat. He's got the sunglasses on, so he's prepared, but he didn't come within 10 feet of that ball.
It is always a challenge. Talking about single-deck stadiums and sunshine and wind patterns, and very different from what you deal with during the regular season. Now Iglesias flies one out to right center. Walker has a beat on this one, looking up, and it's off the base of the wall. In to score is Beatty. Vientos to third. Jose Iglesias booms a double to the opposite field, and the Mets are on the board. It's now 8-1 St. Louis. Like Walker thought he had that ball, and then it just took off on him.
Well, the problem here when the wind is blowing out to right center is that you think you got a beat on the ball, but it just carries. And that one carried over his head. So very typical Florida inning here. An infield hit, a misplay, and a wind-blown double.
So 3 straight hits for New York. They've got their first run of the spring, and now Trace Thompson bats for the second time. Trace, brother of Clay, 3-point specialist. Trace had a great year 2 years ago. Split the year between the Padres and the Dodgers at an .860 OPS. But then last year just .579 playing for the Dodgers and the White Sox.
Kids are so famous, you sometimes forget how famous their dad was.
Yep, Michael Thompson, great NBA star. M-Y-C-H-A-L.
That's right.
That Michael. Slider misses from Kloffenstein, excuse me.
So Clay has a Y in his name. Trace does as well.
Thompson's now 32 years old. He was originally drafted by the White Sox and went full circle back to the South Side last year. As a non-roster player with the Mets. Tomas Nido, the on-deck batter. And Thompson takes a breaking ball strike, and it's 3-2. And Thompson takes strike 3 called. Sinker got him looking. And that's the first out of the inning. So 1 out, runners still at second and third with a run in. Tomorrow, David Stearns, the new president of baseball operations for the Mets, will join us in the booth. David is a really bright guy who, I mean this only in the nicest way, he comes off as a normal person.
Like fully evolved, fully rounded?
Like, you know, he talks to you like you're on the same plane, even if he's on a different plane.
Well,
you know, often in this job, you have baseball executives who talk to you like you're a moron.
Yes. Well,
because you can't possibly know as much as they do.
Well, that is true. I mean, they're embedded.
Right.
They're embedded in it.
What I'm saying is David knows more things than we do, but he makes us think that we can keep up.
Oh, well.
That's what I mean. Like he acts like a normal person.
Well, it's gonna be great to have him in the booth. Just there's so many things to talk about.
Well, just the Harvards versus the Yales. That'll get a run home. As Nido grounds out, Vientos comes in with the second run of the inning, and it's 8-2.
Now, David grew up a Mets fan, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what a dream job that is. That's kind of like you. You grew up a Mets fan, and now you got this gig.
Well, the difference is that, you know, David grew up in a different generation.
Yeah.
You know, he just turned 39.
So his teams are the Piazza teams and those teams?
Exactly. Here's Taylor Colway up for the second time. Walked his first time up. And he takes a slider at his feet for ball 1. Colway had 13 big league at bats with San Diego. Spent 8 years in their organization. And this is his first stint in a different organization. We're talking about guys who stay north in the winter. He's from western Wisconsin.
Oh.
And he still lives there in the offseason.
Really?
Went to Wisconsin lacrosse. 25th round pick. I mean, there's so much fighting against you there, right? But what stands out about Colway, last year at the minors, 124 games, he had a .390 on base percentage. Walked his first time up in this game, and working with a positive count here.
I see his face. This Acuna on deck. When I see at the plate, he looks a little bit like Mike Baxter to me when I see him real quick.
Chopper to the right side. Rivas hits the pitcher covering, and that retires the side, but the Mets get their first 2 runs. Iglesias with an RBI double. It's 8-2 after 4.
Tuesday.
Managed in the minors, managed in the Arizona Fall League, managed in the Venezuelan Winter League, spent the last 15 years in the Yankees organization, most recently as the bench coach for Aaron Boone. He is praised throughout baseball for his demeanor and his baseball acumen, and now he gets his first chance to be a big league skipper. That's with a whole new team on the field. Yaxel Rios is on the mound, and he gets the first pitch over to Victor Scott. The particulars on Carlos Mendoza, who spent 10 years in the minor leagues as a player before embarking on his coaching career. Only the second permanent big league manager born in Venezuela.
Ozzie
Guillen was the first. There have been a couple of interim managers, but he's only the second from Venezuela to get the full-time gig. Alex Ramirez playing right field, pulls in the fly ball hit by Victor Scott for the first out. Mets have a whole new team on the field. Luke Voigt is now playing first base. Yolmer Sanchez is at second. Luis Angel Acuna came into play short the last inning. Rylan Bannon is at third. Carlos Cortez in left. Drew Gilbert in center. So Alex Ramirez in right. Hayden Singer is the catcher. And Yaxel Rios on the mound. That's a good changeup to start off Archimedes Gamboa. Yaxel Rios now in his 9th different organization. Last year he was in 3 games for Oakland, then came up with an aneurysm in his right shoulder, which is serious stuff. He was having trouble getting the feeling in his fingers, and they found the aneurysm, so he had to have surgery and miss the rest of the year. That's drilled toward the gap in right center field. Now that ball bounces on the warning track and goes to the wall. So Gamboa into second base with a 1-out double.
Fastball middle, and Gamboa did not miss it. Very similar to the double by Iglesias in the previous inning. Anything up in the air to right field is the right fielder is not going to catch it.
So the Cardinals have their 9th hit. And now Thomas Saggese up for the second time.
It's quite a year last year for young Saggese.
904 OPS, that'll play. And he flies one out to left. Wind will hold this one, and Cortez is there to grab it. 2 out. Get it out to left, you're going to have to hit it a ton to get it to the wall or over today. It's like hitting the ball uphill. Or throwing it uphill.
Yeah, they're replicating 1968 right here, Gary. And the mound was a little higher.
Is that a Ron Darling jersey on the mound? No, it's Lindor. Yeah, I saw 12. I immediately thought of you. This is Mike Antico up for the second time. He reached on an error his first time up. Mets are on their 4th pitcher of the day, and the first 3 did not escape unscathed. Tyler McGill gave up a run in 2 innings. Hunter Parsons gave up 3 runs in an inning. Josh Walker gave up 4 runs, although all were unearned in his 1 inning.
Pretty good mechanics by the young guy.
And a half swing, and he went around strike 3. So a good inning for Yaxel Rios, throwing all strikes. 10 pitches, 10 strikes. Halfway through, 8-2 Cards. We go to the bottom of the 5th inning. New pitcher for the Cardinals is right-hander Riley O'Brien. Moises Gomez now playing right field, and Alex Ramirez takes his first turn at bat for the Mets. And Ramirez shoots one the other way for a base hit. Well, Alex Ramirez, going into the last couple of years, was one of the top-rated Mets prospects, but they picked up so much talent in the organization that Ramirez has kind of been forgotten about. But he's an enormous physical specimen. Now here's Luis Angel Acuna getting his first turn at bat.
Uncanny, holds his bat just like his brother.
He's not quite as big as Ronald. Doesn't have the same pop. But he can certainly run the way Ronald runs. And he's got a little flair about him too, much like his brother. Goes around on the half swing on a 98-mile-an-hour fastball, and it's 0-2. It is fascinating to me that, you know, the acquisitions the Mets made last summer, Acuna, Drew Gilbert, and then you put them together with Jed Williams. You've got 3 very small players. That's a ball called against O'Brien, moving Ramirez to second base. I mean, they're all 5'9" or smaller, but they all have some pop in their bat.
Hunter Wendelstedt was talking to the first baseman like he balked. See how he points to the first baseman like he didn't get back to the bag? Or I wonder if that's kind of a new way they're going to call it.
And there's strike 3 as Acuna is struck out. Number 99. So 1 out and 1 on. And now Luke Voit will bat for the first time. Voit, a late addition to the Mets spring training roster. Former short season batting champion. And another guy to add to the DH mix, and the guy getting the first crack at it today, it's Mark Vientos, and Mark is joining us from the Mets dugout. Mark, it's Gary and Ron in the booth. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Excited. First game of the year, and it's a beautiful day.
Tell us what your preparation for spring training was like this year.
I mean, preparation is the most important thing for me. It's just preparing every single day for games and just reacting when you're in the game situation. I feel like I try to replicate the game as much as possible, and when I'm out here, is just react and have fun with your friends.
Mark, what did you get out of the workouts defensively with Lindor that you feel really helped you this winter?
Just staying in my legs. That's honestly the most important thing he was talking about, because I'm a bigger guy. Just staying low to the ground, and especially on my throws, just to get good flight. And that's pretty much it, and just slow the game down, not speed it up, because it's already a fast game. So,
you know, there were times last year, Mark, where you were in the big leagues but not getting a whole lot of playing time. What did you learn from that experience?
I learned how to adapt. I learned how to adapt to my situation, and I thought I did a pretty good job of it. I finished out the season strong, and I was happy with it, and I learned a lot, and it got better.
Do you feel, Mark, at this point, I don't know, spring training to me is always a difficult situation, because the mental game you have to play with yourself. You know, it's like you can't go out and get 6 hits. You just got to go out and take each at bat and just make sure you give it your all.
Yeah, no. It's funny. My first 2 at bats, I feel like I was trying to get 6 hits. Just like I'm so excited to be out here and the environment. That's just baseball. But you got to slow the game down, let the game come to you, and just honestly, especially with hitting, you just put bat to ball and see what happens. There's 9 guys out there, so it's a hard game.
What's the difference in your confidence level now compared to, say, last spring training?
I feel like obviously maybe a little bit more, but I feel like I'm a confident person always, no matter if when I was 18, now I'm 24, it's just the same confidence, just have a little bit more experience. So I feel like the experience part, I saw what it was to be in the big. Oh wow. Nice swing.
Rylan Bannon smokes one, but
you see how
tough.
You see, baseball's hard. There's 9 guys out there. Look at Brett Beatty playing around with me. But this game is fun. It's hard, but that's what makes it interesting.
Mark, thanks. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks for talking to us. Mark Vientos from the Mets dugout. That's baseball on SNY is brought to you by CDW. Make amazing happen. By your local Honda dealers. Contact your local Honda dealer for a great deal today. And by Catholic Health. Long live Long Island. Sounds of the ocean.
Maybe not today, but tomorrow. Take a drive to the beach.
Could listen to that all day.
Yep.
Grant Hartwig on to pitch as we go to the 6th inning. Moises Gomez up for the first time.
Hartwig pitched a lot of tough innings for the Mets last year. He was the guy when they needed 3 or 4 innings, he would come in and get the job done.
Well, this is the challenge for him, right? He has the most remarkable reverse splits. Last year, he was great at getting the lefties out. They hit 159 with a 575 OPS. But the righties hit 298 with an 821 OPS.
Which is remarkable to me because just in his motion alone, you think it would be a motion that he devised to get right-handers out. Sidearm slinger with a good breaking ball.
And fastball in for a strike, and it's 2-2. Moises Gomez took over for Jordan Walker in right field. Walker went 0 for 3, and he rolls one out to short, and Acuna's got it. 1 out. Luis Acuna has been a shortstop. Jed Williams has been a shortstop. For the next 8 years, presumably, there will not be an opening for the Mets at shortstop. So Acuna will play some second base. Williams will play some second base, maybe some center field. It's going to be an interesting chore for Dick Scott, the AAA manager, to figure out how to put the parts together, because you also have Drew Gilbert, who's a center fielder.
The talent that the Mets have in their farm system reminds me of a couple of seasons ago for the Cincinnati Reds. They have a lot of players that can play a lot of different positions because of they were all middle infielders, and they had to figure out how to play otherwhere. Jonathan India just won the Rookie of the Year, so they thought that position is out. So they needed to learn how to play short, left field, third base.
Now it looks like India's the odd man out. He's the guy who's going to have to move. But I think that it wasn't just that the Mets stockpiled talent last year at the trading deadline. Another play for Acuna, and he handles that one perfectly. He's got 9 games of the Mets last year, and a good back foot slider against Alfonso Rivas, and it's 0-2.
That's one of those you don't even get out of your mouth. I'm going to retire because I want to spend more time with my family. So happy to be the manager of them.
Basically, it's what happened with David Ross. And you talk about things happening quickly. He was very comfortable in his offseason, getting ready for another year as the Cubs manager, and all of a sudden he wasn't. And Rivas is hit by a pitch. Third different Cardinal has been hit by a mid-pitcher today.
Correct me if I'm wrong. That's twice in recent history as you see this ball running in and getting it right on the left forearm. Didn't they also do that with Joe Maddon, their manager? When Joe Maddon became available, their manager who then went on to the White Sox, they made the call and he was out. Maddon comes in, and same with Counsell and Ross.
Well, with Maddon, it worked out.
Yeah, right. Championship.
Let's see if it works out as well with Craig Counsell in Chicago. Checking on Rivas after he got hit on the forearm. But they're going to leave him in. No, they're going to take him out. Yep. So this will be Chandler Redmond to run for Rivas.
Did you mention it that the Cardinals have a split squad game today?
Yes.
So they don't have as many players here as they would normally have.
Yeah, got another game back in Jupiter. Matthew Liberatore started that game. Zach Thompson started this one. Here's Buddy Kennedy, who's up for the 4th time. Cardinals are in an interesting position as far as their pitching is concerned, because they brought in Sonny Gray, they brought back Lance Lynn, they signed Kyle Gibson, but as a result, it's off the end of the bat to center, and Gilbert, looking through the sunglasses, has it to retire Kennedy. They've now got the oldest starting rotation in the major league. They're 5 starters: Gray, Michaelis, Gibson, Lynn, and Matz. Average 34.6 years old. So they're talking about going to a 6-man rotation to try and take some of the burden off those older starters.
And that's with the retirement of Wainwright.
Right. There's Victor Scott, who's 1 for 3.
Well, either way you cut it, the pitchers are just having a really difficult time staying healthy, other than the real elite guys. The Dodgers last year, Gary, used 17 starting pitchers. The Dodgers.
Well, everybody's talked about how, they brought in Shohei Ohtani and they brought in Yamamoto. By the way, they also get Walker Buehler back this year.
That's right. I mean, they are so good that Buehler's ready, and they're not going to let him pitch. They'll let him pitch a little later, so he's ready for October. It's a nice place to be.
Scott takes a knee-high strike, and it's 2-1. Talking about using a 6-man rotation, which the Cardinals are considering, and a lot of teams are talking about now. Pitch guys less and less so that they don't get hurt, which never works, but they keep trying.
Yeah.
The Mets last year really worked their rotation around Kodai Senga's schedule, so that Senga only 3 times last year pitched on regular 4 days rest. And they were talking about doing something very similar this year and using a 6-man rotation for certain stretches where they don't have any off days.
I wonder, though, if Senga misses the first, whatever it is, 2, 3, 4 weeks, a month, 2 months, whatever it turns out to be, whether that makes it less likely that they go to a 6-man rotation.
I think less likely. And what will happen is that if you're one of the 5, and now, you have the established guys that are going to, Manaea's going to get his starts. Severino's going to get his starts. But if you're one of the guys towards the bottom of the rotation, the depth will be in AAA. And as long as you're pitching well, you'll be fine. But if you don't, you might lose your position pretty quickly.
Well, the problem, of course, with going back and forth is that unlike last year when the Mets signed bullpen arms with an eye toward optionability, they don't really have the same flexibility this year. There's ball 4 and Scott is on. And so it's going to be harder for them to maneuver their pitching staff to get starters in and out, get relievers in and out. And bullpen's interesting because they brought in a lot of depth. They basically got, well, Diaz, Ottavino, Raley, Jake Diekman, Drew Smith, probably Jorge Lopez. Those guys probably are there. Now you've got that's 6. So with an 8-man bullpen, you've basically got 2 spots and maybe a dozen guys who have a chance for those 2 spots. So one of them, Yatso Rios, who looked good. Grant Hardwig, he looked good today. Got 3 right-hand hitters out. 1-1 to Archimedes Gamboa, who's been on base 3 times with a walk, an infield hit, and a double. I thought Diekman was a great find for the Mets. I was shocked that he was on the market as long as he was. I asked him about it, and he said, nope, I'm a relief pitcher. If I'm not signed by Thanksgiving, it's going to be February. He was very matter-of-fact about it. But he had a great time of it after he went from the White Sox to Tampa Bay last year. Something about Tampa Bay. And that skips to the backstop past Senger. And the wild pitch moves the runners to second and third.
Jake, when he's at his best, is kind of like having Chris Sale out of the bullpen with those mechanics and his velocity.
Well, he figured something out last year with the Rays that really had eluded him. So Mets are hoping to cash in on that. Shadow of the grandstand now has reached past home plate, making things a little bit tougher. That's a foul ball, and it's 2-2.
Mentioning Sale, it's going to be interesting to see what he can provide for the Braves this year after the trade over. But he was, at the end of the year, when he made those starts for the Red Sox, was throwing harder than he's thrown in quite some time. So maybe he's starting to get healthy again.
Picked out of the dirt by Senger, makes the play to first. Nice job by Garrett to strike out Gamboa, keep the runners at second and third. Now they're 2 out. Well, the Braves didn't do much. I mean, they brought in Sale when they made the deal for Jared Kelenic. And, you're talking about a team that has dominated this division for the last half decade, and they set a record last year. They had the highest slugging percentage for a team in history. Their first batter in spring training this year, Michael Harris, hit a home run to pick up right where they left off. And they're going to be very, very hard to catch.
Acuna last year, for all his greatness, the 73 stolen bases, the home runs. Do you know last year on the first pitch, leadoff hitter, of course, one of the best maybe in the history of the game. First pitch of the first at bat, he had 464 if he put it in play. And he cut down on the strikeouts in half. How did he do that? He had 385 on 0-2 pitches that he put into play.
That's amazing. Well, he is, I think, right now the best player in the game.
I like that.
I mean, for a long time, Mike Trout was the acknowledged best player in the game. I think it's Acuna.
I agree.
It'll be interesting to see what he does for an encore this year.
He's the only guy in the
I wouldn't throw him a first pitch in the strike zone to lead off the game.
Right.
0-2 from Garrett. And foul back by Sajazi.
I mean, sometimes we change our broadcast. When we do Braves games, you know, we always are mixing in the infield and the defense and the lineups. When the Mets are facing the Braves, we don't do any of that kind of stuff because you cannot miss one pitch that is thrown to Ronald Acuna.
It's out to right center. The wind grabs it and may carry it back toward the wall. Ramirez, and it's off the fence. 2 runs will score. Trying for third is Sajazi. The relay throw to third, and Sajazi is out. Terrific relay throw by Yolmer Sanchez, and they get Sajazi at third to end the inning, but 2 more runs come home for the Cardinals, and it's 10-2 at the 7th inning stretch.
Guide can help.
Home 7th inning. And Nick Robertson on the mound for the Cardinals. Popped into center field, and it's going to land for a base hit. Hayden Senger leading off in the bottom of the 7th. Hits the first pitch and dumps one into center field. Earlier today, Connor and Joe were live from Clover Park to break down all the spring training storylines on the latest episode of the Mets Pod, presented by Tri-State Cadillac. Subscribe and listen wherever you get your podcasts. So the Mets have a leadoff base runner in the 7th. And now Carlos Cortez will bat for the first time. Nick Robertson was traded from the Dodgers to the Red Sox at the deadline last year, and the deal that brought Kike Hernandez back to L.A. And then the Red Sox traded him to the Cardinals this winter for Tyler O'Neill. And a half swing and a miss by Cortez, and it's 2-1. Cortez chases a high fastball. It's 2-2.
You know, what's interesting about the Cardinals is that 2 or 3 seasons ago, they bet the house on Dylan Carlson's and Tyler O'Neill's while they still had Adolis Garcia and Randy Arozarena in their minor leagues.
Oops. Back foot slider, and he lays off, and it's 3-2. Well, they're retooling their outfield in a different direction, putting a guy like Edman, who's an infielder, out in center field, trying to be a little more athletic in that regard. The Cardinals' defense was a disaster last year. That's lined into center field, a base hit for Cortez. So back-to-back base hits for Senger and Cortez to start the bottom of the 7th.
We've seen a lot of bullets through the box today. That'll shake you up as a pitcher because, I mean, you spent all winter just throwing off the mound, and now it's, uh-oh, this is on. Coming out of the shadows.
And at a time of day, it should be harder to hit.
That's right.
Now Alex Ramirez up for the second time at a base hit to right field, his first time up. Ramirez's issue has been contact. See, those numbers last year were underwhelming. I still believe he's got outstanding raw power and athleticism. He's just not been able to get to it. Still just 21 years old.
Hitters all deal with the same thing coming up, right? They are a prospect, great athleticism. In the lower minor leagues, face a lot of pitchers who are wild and can't get their breaking ball over. And as you progress through the system, you start to face pitchers who can spin it for a strike at any time. That's the great separator for hitters. Can you make that adjustment as you go up in the minor leagues?
Ramirez spent all of last year in Brooklyn, which is not a park that's conducive for hitters. With that wind blowing in off the water all the time.
It's a pretty big ballpark too, right?
Now he chases one for strike 3, so Ramirez goes down swinging for the first out of the home 7. Got a spring training shirt. Got the spoon ready for the ice cream. Where's the ice cream?
Oh, probably ate it already.
Got the spoon.
No, she ate it already. She's just holding on to the spoon.
She wants Dad's ice cream is what she wants. There's Luis Angel Acuna up for the second time. Acuna struck out his first time up, but he's looked neat in the field.
He's got quite an arm. Trying to watch him run as well.
He was in competition with his brother for a while last year to see who would have more stolen bases, but in the end, Ronald turned it on late. Became the first 40-70 player in Major League history. Nobody had ever done 40-60. He did 40-70.
No one did 40-50. So, I mean, just took a huge leap.
And there's a call, strike 3-1. Well, last year was the first year of the new rules with the limited step-offs and disengagements. And I wonder whether in year 2 there will be more liberties taken as Acuna takes ball 4 to load the bases, and the spigot will open even wider, or will pitchers and catchers develop new routines that are able to cut down at least some of the advantage that the runners have? Let's see, last year the stolen base numbers went up from 1.4 per game to 1.8 attempts, and I think that number is going to go up further this year. I don't know if the success rate's going to stay as high, but if it is an 80% success rate, why wouldn't teams attempt more?
You know, I talked to a few people about this. It's going to be interesting if we have Jeremy Hefner on one of our broadcasts, if he'll talk about it. And if he doesn't, then maybe in private we should talk to him about it. But a lot of runners were taking advantage, and we saw it, right, uncontested, when that timer started getting lower, 5, 4, 3, because every pitcher now was committed to the plate. They couldn't make the adjustment and throw to first.
That's line into left, a base hit for Luke Voigt. That'll bring in a run. Stopping at third is Cortez. Sanger comes in to score, and it's now 10-3. So Luke Voigt drives in a run in his second at bat.
Luke Voigt can hit. I don't care where he's at. He is going to rake. He has from the first day he came up with the St. Louis Cardinals.
That's right, hitting against his old team here. You know, talking about negating the running game. I had a long conversation a few days ago with Adam Ottavino, who has been victimized more than anybody else in terms of the running game. And he believes, I talked to him about the clock and I talked to him about being faster to the plate, but he believes that he just needs a more credible pickoff move to at least put some doubt in runners' minds. And he's done an enormous amount of work to try and tighten up his move.
Oh, that's great. He is correct. That's where he's got to go.
Ryland Bannon pops one up. Along the right field line comes Gomez into foul ground to make the catch. Tagging and coming home is Cortez. So a sacrifice fly for Ryland Bannon drives in a run to make it 10-4.
You know, the reason I say that is because Adam just has a way and style of pitching that he's done for a long time, and it does take a while to get that ball to the plate. I wouldn't want to take away one of his greatest strengths, and that is the way he pitches, his ability to pitch. But that's what he could work on. I won't say a Bach move, but something that is a lot quicker to the plate. He's a big right-handed guy, so it's not going to be easy. But credible sounds really good, where all he has to do is pick off one or two early in the year, April or May, and they'll be more hesitant to run on him.
I mean, he studied guys with good pickoff moves. Guys like Zach Greinke and Taijuan Walker and guys like that. And he said there are 4 things he came up with that he can do better.
He's so smart about the game.
He needs to take a smaller step off the rubber with his right foot. He was stepping too far, which made the turn too big. He has to do a tighter turn.
Okay.
He has to alter his head movements in terms of where he looks. He has to not bring his hands up slowly when he starts his delivery. He needs to be quicker with that. And he said he has to be conscious of the clock as well. So he said 4 things. He said, now I have to figure out how to make them work so I don't have to think about them during the game.
Yeah, incorporate it into his style of pitching, because, like I said, pitching comes first. One of the things you can do to give yourself a little bit of advantage of your right-handed pitcher, and he's right on with talking about taking a smaller step, which makes that turn quicker. You could also not be so closed to the plate. He's very close with that left foot, which has really that left shoulder so tucked, he has a long way to go to first base.
On 3-2, it's cued down to third by Allen. The long throw by Kennedy is handled, and that retires the side. The Mets get a couple of runs out of that inning. We go to the 8th. It's 10-4 St. Louis. Since we lost the great Buddy Harrelson, one of the absolute treasures in Mets history, the only man in uniform for both the 1969 and 1986 championships, Gold Glove shortstop for the 69 team, and third base coach for the 86 Mets, and my personal favorite growing up. And I know, Ronnie, for all of us who knew him, one of the absolute best people we've ever met.
Just a gem of a guy. If you remember that shot there, that's when a lot of the older players were introduced. He ran onto the field at whatever age he was then. But first name Derek? What was his?
Darryl McKinley.
Darryl McKinley.
Born on D-Day.
He just, you know, he wasn't a big guy, but there was a toughness to Bud. If you were around him, he didn't take any, there was no nonsense, but he could laugh with the best of them. He loved the sport of baseball. He just loved it. Loved being in uniform. Loved running around the field, running out to third base to his position. I didn't get to see him play that much like you did, but he was one of those unsung heroes of that 69 team. And I mean, I've told this story 1,000 times, but we might have one of you who hasn't heard it, and it's worth it. Well, I used to get to camp, and I'd have my glove, and I wore an exceptionally small glove, an infielder's glove, because that's what I felt comfortable with. That's what I grew up with as a kid. I was an aspiring infielder. And he would take it, and I would put it right in his locker, and he would take it on the first day of spring training, and he would do all the workouts with it. And by the time April 1st came, it was perfectly formed, and because his hand was smaller than mine, it was really tight, fit perfectly on my hand. And boy, but what I would give to have him do it one more time.
I mean, he was a great player. Not a power hitter, obviously, but a guy who could put the ball in play. Gold Glove caliber shortstop. I mean, watching him make plays in the hole go out of pop-ups was just a thing of beauty. Everything fundamentally sound. And then he became a great teacher of the game as well. Strike 3 called, and Tico is struck out by Nate Lavender, who is a fascinating guy to watch this spring. Lavender, who has just put up incredible strikeout numbers throughout his minor league career. Last year, 14.2 strikeouts per 9 innings for a guy who does not throw particularly hard.
He's deceptive, though. Throws across his body.
I heard a great explanation of what makes Lavender unusual. A scout said he looks like somebody who's right-handed who learned to throw lefty late in life. I thought that was interesting.
Wow.
And I think of Billy Wagner as being the prototypical right-hander who had to learn how to throw lefty. And Lavender doesn't throw as hard, but he's got a very similar delivery to Billy's, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. And Billy, I think, broke his arm a couple times as a kid. That's why he had to learn how to throw lefty.
I mean, Lavender's fastball velocity averaged 91 last year, and he threw his fastball 65% of the time, and yet struck out enormous numbers of hitters. Blew that fastball by Gomez, and so Lavender has back-to-back strikeouts to start his stint.
He reminds me a little of Sid Fernandez, who I played with. Sid pitched a little lower than Nate, but Nate still has that bottom to top kind of release point, meaning that the ball looks like it rises. It doesn't, of course, but that's what the appearance is to the hitter.
Sometimes he hangs his leg, and sometimes he goes directly at the hitter, so he's adding deception there as well.
Right. An example, and he didn't have a great year last year, but the years prior he was quite good, is Christian Javier for Houston. He's another guy that pitches from the bottom to the top. Most pitchers are, try to stand as tall as they can and get that kind of arc.
Nick Raposo took over behind the plate up for the first time. Let's see that fastball coming in at 91, and they're just not squaring it up. Certainly gets far down the hill with his stride. Hanging that leg again. And he strikes out the side in the 8th inning. There's an impressive inning for Nate Lavender. That'll open some eyes. Home eighth inning. Andre Granillo on the mound for the Cardinals. Yolmer Sanchez at the plate for the Mets. Sanchez grounded out in his only at bat.
Granillo is supposed to have the best slider in the Cardinals organization. Lots of strikeouts.
Sanchez flies one out to right with the jet stream, but not deep enough. Gomez with a step to the wall makes the grab, one out. Let's go back to Nate Lavender, who really was impressive. Look how long this stride is.
Yeah, but what happens is when you have that high leg kick and that stride all the way down the hill, is that you have a thing called effective velocity. So you're letting that ball go closer to the hitter, and I think that's where a lot of that deception comes as well. But that was impressive.
All right, you're throwing the ball from 55 feet instead of from 60 feet.
That's why guys like Carter Capps and others tried to jump down that hill, right?
Eddie House.
Eddie House.
Drew Gilbert up for the second time. Didn't have a chance to mention it because it ended the inning, and then Sanchez just flied out quickly. Yolmer Sanchez, great throw on the relay to third base a couple of innings ago.
He's a Gold Glover, so.
Don't hand out the gold for nothing. That's what Keith always tells me.
11 times.
Is that all?
That's all.
Here we go. Here we go.
All right, let's go Mets.
Future Gold Glover.
Go ahead.
Very nice. At least those, those pants don't reveal as much.
That's right. Good fabric.
And Gilbert couldn't hold the swing. He's a strikeout victim, and there are two out.
That is a good slider.
SNY Play Ball presented by Toyota is back, looking to support local youth baseball and softball leagues. If you know a league in need, apply today at sny.tv/playball. So a 2 out and nobody on. Now Hayden Senger up for the second time. Senger had a base hit and scored a run on the 7th.
Granillo is just mostly a reliever, but he was lucky. He went to University of California, Riverside. His coach, Troy Percival.
Be a good job. Got to teach him to be a relief pitcher. That's hit well to right and back at the wall. It's out of here. Hayden Senger goes the other way for the Mets' first home run of the spring. That makes it 10-5 St. Louis. So Senger coming in relief behind the plate has a single and now an opposite field home run.
Well, a side swing, he got that up in the air to right field, and today that ball is going to be out of here. So he did his own version of the bloop and the blast. His 2 at-bats, a bloop to center field for a base hit and a blast to right.
Senger hit just 5 home runs in 81 games for Binghamton last year. Not a big home run hitter, but he got it up in the jet stream and got it out. And now Carlos Cortez batting for the second time at a base hit to center field, his first time up. Got a call and response going on.
He's trying his best to get it going.
That's an outstanding instigation.
Right?
With that slider, tried it on the back door and missed. And it's 3-1.
There he goes.
Doing a great job. That's
He
lined
is.
into center field, and Cortez going up the middle twice is 2 for 2. The young man may have a future as public address announcer.
There you go. Well, why he can't stop. He's done it, and he's gotten a home run and now a base hit.
Now Alex Ramirez up for the third time. He's singled and struck out. Yeah, he's still on it, Ronnie. He is taking his cheerleading responsibilities very seriously.
I can see him. He's right below us, right behind the dish.
Wearing his Lindor jersey. Full voice. You know, a lot of folks, they peak early, and by the 8th inning, no voice left. This young man, he saved it for the crucials.
I was just thinking about that with my own broadcast here.
You a little worn down, a little fatiga?
Peaked a little early. I mean,
you got to be able to pace yourself. Kid's got a good seat. He's not using it. 3-1 now to Ramirez with Luis Angel Acuna on deck.
Uncle Mike says he agrees with you.
And he takes that one the other way. Second hit for Ramirez, both to right field. Cortez pulls in at second, so 3 straight 2-out hits for the Mets in the 8th.
Well, the breaking ball hurt him last time, but you can see Ramirez, that fastball all over it. Up in the strike zone, goes the other way.
So now Acuna, who's struck out and walked in his 2 plate appearances. And he takes the slider out of the strike zone for ball 1. He's got great pronunciation.
He does.
Kid, you got a future. Check swing taken high, and he went around 1-1. Acuna will turn 22 in a couple of weeks. Last year, splitting time between 2 AA teams, wound up hitting .294 with a .359 on base percentage, 57 stolen bases, 9 home runs. Slider out of the strike zone. So after retiring the first 2 hitters and looking great with that slider, Granillo now having trouble getting ahead of the hitters. 3rd straight batter he's fallen behind 3-1. Two on and 2 out for Acuna. And he chases that one. It goes to the backstrap. It's strike 3, and Acuna is going to reach safely. We had the count 3-1, but it was 2-2. And so that is a strikeout wild pitch that loads up the bases.
Good breaking ball, gets by the catcher who didn't go to block it, just tried to swipe it. And we've seen a lot of hitters not run on that, and it was great seeing Acuna do that.
So Luke Voit bats with the bases loaded. Mets are down 10-5 after trailing 10-2, and Voit with a chance to make it a 1-run game. Luke had an RBI single his last time up. This is his 3rd plate appearance. And he flies this one out to center. Should be easy for Antico. And he's got it. That retires the side. Mets get a home run from Hayden Singer. 10-5 Cardinals going to the 9th.
Available.
Ninth inning, David Griffin is on the mound for the Mets from Hanover, Mass.
Nice.
Curry College in Milton.
I don't know that college. I mean, I know Milton Academy, of course, right?
This is Jimmy Crooks batting for the Cardinals. Crooks getting his first at bat, took over for Lucan Baker in the DH spot. And loses his bat, which hits the netting, which thankfully runs from just about foul pole to foul pole here at Clover Park. Coming up later, it's on to Sports Night at 11 o'clock, and then half hourly after that.
Creighton got UConn, didn't they?
Wait a second. No mention of Seton Hall Butler tonight. It's a huge game.
Wow.
It has been a fabulous.
Can't be that huge. You're not there.
Fabulous basketball season to watch.
It has been. You and I were talking about it before the game. That Big East tournament is going to be for real.
I mean, there are 3 teams in the Big East that are in for sure. There's strike 3 to Crooks for the first out. UConn, Marquette, Creighton definitely in.
Yeah.
Then you got 5 teams, all of whom are right on the bubble and have a chance to knock each other off both over the next couple of weeks and then in the Big East tournament. Action going on the backfields if you can sneak a glance through the palm trees.
Through the tiki bar.
Can't show it. This is Chandler Redmond batting for the first time. Came in as a pinch runner and stayed in the game at first base. It's been a disturbing trend this spring. You know, we've talked about the uniforms and their limitations. Most of the players during preseason workouts have not been wearing their actual uniforms. So it's been harder for the fans wandering on the backfields, watching workouts to know who's who. I mean, some players, obviously, the fans know by sight.
Yes, like Lindor.
Right, but some of the more obscure players or the younger guys, it's been difficult for the fans to identify them because the players are not wearing their numbers. Don't know why that is exactly. Maybe it's because of uniform limitations. Maybe it's because it's been a little chillier. I don't know.
Yeah, I just think the players have so much gear, like great gear to wear.
Mm-hmm. It's old number 95, Chandler Redmond, we think. No name. And Redmond is down on strikes. So after Lavender struck out the side of the 8th, Griffin has struck out the first 2 in the 9th.
Well, with Lavender his fastballs, with Griffin he's got a good breaking ball down in the strike zone.
Griffin had a rough year last year, mostly as a starter in AA and AAA, 6.6 ERA. Over from minor league camp.
You know, you were mentioning 95. Last night I got in real late. My flight was late, shocking. And I was driving, and you would think that us from the Northeast, it's not a big deal. We drive pretty fast, right, in the Northeast?
Right.
I come down, I get into my rental car,
right.
I get on 95, and I put it on a high number, cruise control. I'm not going to say what the number was.
Shouldn't say.
Pretty high number.
Shouldn't say.
People are flying by me, like I was standing still.
There's a problem in driving in Florida, which is this. In the Northeast, most people drive at a fairly good clip.
Yeah.
Here, you get half the population that drives 100, and the other half that drives 40.
Maybe that's the issue. But I just, like last night on both sides, I felt like I was standing still, right and left. They were just flying by me.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, it's 2:30 in the morning.
I know, it was 2:30 in the morning, so I didn't feel like matching what they were going through.
Well, especially since you don't know where they're coming from.
That's right.
How lubricated they might be.
That's right. It's the perfect time.
Yeah. Or what's the old saying? Nothing good happens after 2 o'clock in the morning.
Boy, I'm a living testament to that, I'll tell you.
It's an old scout right there.
Yeah.
1-2 coming to Nick Dunn, and he flies one foul. Hey, we have another game tomorrow.
Who are the Mets playing tomorrow? I gotta get
prepped with information that's hard for me to remember. It's the Astros tomorrow.
Okay. Never ask a question you don't know the answer to.
Well, now you know the answer.
Okay. Josh Hader is their big acquisition.
Popped up on the left side. Bannon and Senga, the catcher, goes out a long way to get it. Senga having himself quite a show. Hits the home run, now catches that pop-up to the bottom of the ninth. Last of the ninth inning in the spring opener in Port St. Lucie. Rylan Bannon leads off against Victor Santos, who fires one outside for ball one.
Santos came over in the trade as well. Tyler O'Neill to the Red Sox.
Santos did not pitch at all last year. Bannon up for the third time. Hit a sharp line drive that went nowhere and was caught his first time up. Then he had a sacrifice fly to drive in a run in the seventh. Rylan Bannon out of Xavier University, putting big league time with the Orioles, Braves, the Astros, and he loses his bat.
A lot of babies here today.
Must be somebody's baby.
Dancing? Oh no!
Very nice.
Fighting over a bat. Fighting over a bat. I thought it was dancing. It is kind of dancing.
It did look like a good two-step. Oh, they're playing a game.
Oh, okay. That game's going to end up with one of them crying. I'm telling you.
Rolled out to second. JC throws out Bannon, and that's the first out in the ninth. Catch a new episode of the Gino Auriemma Show, presented by Nissan, coming up next only on SNY. Paige Becker's back for another year.
Yes.
That's huge. All the execs at SNY are smiling.
I think that's why she made the decision.
You think?
Yeah, there was pressure on.
Getting a little NIL from SNY?
It was really interesting. I don't know if it was on the show, but I was listening to Gino. He was talking about the difference between American kids playing basketball and the European kids. They'll practice 6 or 7 times and then have a game. And then for the American kids, they're playing games all the time, showcase games, but not practicing as much.
Well, it's that way in the pros in Europe, too. They play once a week. Fly ball out to center field off the bat of Austin Allen. And Antico makes the catch, and the Mets are down to their final out of the afternoon.
That's the way they play basketball there, too, in Europe, once a week?
The Americans who go over to play in Europe, they've got the greatest deals. They play one game a week. They get all their expenses paid. They get a nice apartment and the chef and the whole thing. It's a good deal.
And at 21 years old, you're in Rome
better than playing in the G League.
Paris or
better than playing in Fargo or wherever the G League
wherever Dave Freed goes.
Yolmer Sanchez takes a strike, and the Mets down to their final out. Sanchez 0 for 2. Hit one to the wall in right field that was caught his last time up. Yolmer Sanchez is the Mets' Moonlight Graham. Played 3 games as a Met 2 years ago. Never got a plate appearance.
Really? Oh.
Got to get that 1AB before he becomes a doctor. Carlos Mendoza finishing off his first non-game as a Mets manager. We'll have another non-game tomorrow, all leading up to the first real game on March 28th. And Santos misses just away, and it's 3-2.
Talked about it though in the open, and you and I talked about it in the lunchroom with our producer Greg Picker. There's a lot more decisions that have to be made this year. You know, last year it was like every position's taken. Let's see what happens.
Sanchez strikes out, and that puts an end to this game. Victor Santos gets the Mets 1-2-3 in the ninth. And the Mets take a loss in their first spring training game. A couple of key errors and a 4-1 fourth for the Cardinals. Hayden Senger hit a home run for the Mets as Cardinals win this game 10-5.
For the Mets, Nate Lavender. We're going to see a lot of him in spring.
That certainly was the high point. Lavender striking out the side in the 8th inning, looking very impressive doing it. Tyler McGill went the first 2, gave up a run on 2 hits. That's your CDW game summary. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by CDW. Make amazing happen. By Northwell Racing Health for more New Yorkers with cancer.